quick?
You sure can.
Okay.
We are starting. We are
Okay.
live. All right. Hi, everybody. It is Kendell Lenice, and welcome to More Than Just a Movie, where we break down classic Black movies, Black films. Leroy was having some technical difficulty, so we apologize for those who come back every week to watch us live at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single week. So we're excited about the month of July because, yes, we've done school days, Spike Lee school days, but we decided to dedicate a whole month to Spike Lee. That was a suggestion, and that was something that we thought about, and we said, you know what? Yes, he deserves it. If no one deserves to be the first one to kick off a month dedicated to a filmmaker, who else other than Spike Lee? Then we decided, okay, we'll give months to other people, but Spike is the very first one, and he is so deserving of this honor, if you will. I am Kendell Lenice. That's my co-host, Leroy Mckenzie Jr. And again, every week we break down classic Black films the way that we know how to do it. It may be different from any other reviews that you see on YouTube or on television. And my daughter was just telling me, she's like, on Netflix, they have a show now where or I think it's on Netflix, where they break down Black classic movies and love movies. And they're doing what we started doing first right here on YouTube. So, yeah, so I was like, what? They're doing what we're doing. And we started doing this first. As a life coach, I see things differently. And Leroy is in his field and he sees things differently. And we both have the love of Black movies. So I couldn't think of anyone else to do this with. So we are kicking off July Spike Lee month, a Spike joint, 40 Acres and a Mule. We are starting with She's Gotta Have It, his first movie. So let me just tell you a little bit about this. She's Gotta Have It was released August 8th, 1986. 40 Acres and a Mule, his film company, FilmWorks. This is a Spike joint. He started that. Now, this is the thing. Spike is the man. This was his first movie, and we all know Spike's history and a little along throughout the show and throughout the month. We'll talk about the greatness of Spike Lee and how he was set aside from the rest, and he did this thing with credit cards and on his own, and with loans, and just doing what he had to do because he believed in his gift, this Morehouse man. All right, so the budget for this movie was $175,000. Let me tell you something. In opening weekend, it made $28,473. That's just opening weekend. It went on to make, you ready? $7.1 million. Come on, this is his first film, y'all. $7.1 million. If that's not in the red, I don't know what is.
No, the black.
In the black. I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say in the black. We talked about movies being in the red, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Baps. And even though it was a fan favorite, it didn't recoup the money. But Spike Lee, $175,000 to make it. That was the budget. Made $7.1 million. That sounds like a slam dunk to me. Let's talk about She's Gotta Have It, right? I think this was monumental for a lot of reasons, and we'll get into that. But it was a black and white film. The only part of the color is when Nola Darling, who was the main character, has her happy birthday, and it was in color. But we already know how Spike does his movies and how just brilliant his ideas are. We know about the slow walking. We know about the black and white and the lens he uses. And his eye is something that we had never seen before Spike Lee. And if you look at certain things now, Spike Lee has influenced many filmmakers to make movies the way that they do. And they have to give their props to Spike Lee. All right. So it starred Tracy Camilla Johns. Nobody knew who she was. She later went on to do New Jack City. But Redmond Hicks, John Canada or Canada. I think it's Canadian.
It's Canada. Canada.
No.
Just like the country.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Because I've heard people say when I was looking at interviews, they weren't saying just like the country, but then some were. But Canada, we can say John Canada Terrell, and of course Spike Lee and Ray Dowell. This movie went on to stream September 2017, and we'll talk about that. But this movie was so dope that Spike and his wife Tracy Tanya Lewis Lee, let's be clear, decided to do She's Gotta Have It, a series on Netflix, which lasted 2 seasons. I absolutely loved the show. It was a series. I'm tongue-tied today. Nola Darling was reincarnated, and DeWanda Wise played Nola Darling in the series. And that's special to us here in Maryland, even though I'm from Jersey, but I live in Maryland. She's from Jessup, Maryland. And a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people aren't from Jessup, Maryland. And only if you're in Maryland, you know where Jessup is. And even in Maryland, you may not even know where Jessup is. All right, Leroy, we're talking about She's Gotta Have It. And I know you had technical difficulties and we're thrown off a little bit, but we're going to just keep going as we always do. So let's talk about Spike Lee for a moment, and let's talk about his first joint. So what you think about She's Gotta Have It? I'm about to play the trailer for everyone once I get your take.
Well, I thought it was, to be honest with you, I hadn't watched it in a long time. So I had to go back and rewatch it. And I was just like, man, this for his first movie, you talking 1986.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was beautifully shot.
Mm-hmm.
The cinematography, I don't know if you paid attention to that, was just
perfect.
I was just like, man, Spike. I mean, that's what I guess makes Spike, and even made his first joint that special. The way he even shot it, the black and white, the imagery.
Yeah.
That it almost shot you. And I don't know if you felt like this too, but the way he shot it, it was almost like a photographer shooting pictures.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I'm like this, like I said, I hadn't watched it in a long time. I'm just like, man, not only was the story interesting and intriguing, but the way
which we're going to talk about.
Yeah, the way that he shot it, I thought was especially innovative for that time. Because when do you remember another black and white movie? That was just
right. And then to know and have the wherewithal for your first movie that it's going to be a black and white movie, but when Nola Darling's birthday comes, they make it color. And it wasn't just color, it was just a small piece in the movie where it was color. And it was so bright and so vivid. It wasn't even regular color.
Yep.
It was just like, wow. And then they went back to the black and white just to even have that idea. Right. And I know a lot of people are starting to do different things and play around with different things now, but Spike was doing that first.
Yep.
So we got to give credit where credit is due. And like we always say, this is a spoiler alert. Now, listen, if you haven't seen this movie that came out in 1986, or you weren't even born, because DeWanda Wise, who plays Nola Darling in the series She's Gotta Have It, which came out in 2017, she was only 2 years old. Wow. When the movie came out. Wow. She was born, I think she was born in 84, and the movie came out in 86. So if you are in that generation and you haven't seen it, or you've just seen the Netflix series for the 2 seasons that it was on, you need to go back and watch the original movie where it came from. And if your parents haven't told you about the movie, or you don't know about Spike Lee, then you need to just take a whole month and do your homework and binge on Spike's film. So this is definitely going to be a spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. So let me just run a clip real quick of the trailer for those that don't remember. And the party lights.
No, the only reason I'm consenting to this is because I wish to clear my name. Not that I care what people think, but enough is enough. And if in the end it helps some other people out, well, then that's fine too. I consider myself normal, whatever that means. Some people call me a freak. I hate that word. I don't believe in it. Better yet, I don't believe in labels. But what are you gonna do? In my experiences, I found two types of men. The decent ones. I know it sounds coy, but if I didn't follow you, I might not ever see you. You're right, that does sound coy. And the dogs. I've never seen anybody like to look at themselves more than you do. Don't you ever get tired? Never happened, baby. What? No. What? No. What? Just let me smell it. It seems that men are taught not to be in touch with themselves, with their true feelings, with the things that they do say. I'm everything that you need. You are tripping. One day you're gonna wake up in this bed. Oh, God. You know, when I woke up this morning, I had a feeling I had to slice you. You can't ask me first. I asked you. You didn't have enough drive or ambition. It's about control. My body, my mind. Who's gonna own it, them or me? I am not a one-man woman.
All right. So right there, we got to think about the time. In 1986, women weren't taking ownership of their body or their sexuality. It just wasn't happening then. When we look now with body positivity and not shaming a woman for doing what she's doing and eradicating labels, that's what everyone is doing now in 2021. But we have to understand that this movie was in 86. Women weren't completely liberated with their bodies. It was still shame on a woman wanting sex or a woman dating multiple people, or she was like Nola said, she was a freak or a super freak, as people say, because she wanted to have multiple experiences with different men. She didn't want to be tied down. She didn't want to just date one person. She wasn't ready to get married. She wanted to date different men, like men date different women. But when men date different women, they're a player, or, you know, he can't settle down or he can't be tied down. It's nothing negative. But if a woman wants to date multiple men at a time or have relationships with multiple men who know about each other, then they're looked at as a hoe or a freak, as she said. And I thought that was very bold and brave for Spike to do that. So even the people that didn't get it then, and like, she's a hoe, now in 2021 are like, get it, I understand. Tell me as a man what you thought about this movie. And I just want to say shout out to Jamal Baker. He was like, how you doing this movie without me? So we definitely have to have him. He's a Spike Lee fan. We definitely have to have him on one of the movies that we review. But shout out Jamal. I know you wanted to talk about this movie. But what do you think, Leroy, as a man, about the whole plot and concept of this movie?
No, I loved it. I thought it was different, and it was kind of and I was thinking about this when I was watching it. It was actually the reverse of kind of, and I was trying to think of another movie that did it from a male perspective.
What, Bill Bellamy?
No.
Oh.
I wasn't even thinking about that one. I was thinking more so of Boomerang with Eddie Murphy, because he was seen as the player, and
yeah,
there is this double standard when it comes to, like you were saying, when it comes to women dating more than multiple men, and men dating multiple women.
Yeah.
So I thought it was great that he did it from a woman's perspective and who was unashamedly who she was. Um, and and I guess back in that time, and even to this day, it's still, a woman would be considered who dates multiple men as seen a freak, as she tried to say it. And then, but then, even to me, and I know you, I don't know if you meant, I don't know what you said about the men that do the same thing. They're called dogs. You know, that's been even back then. I think men who were, who saw multiple women were called dogs, and everything like that. My thing with it, and I loved it. I knew even back then when I watched it, when you have somebody that tries to say that they don't want to have labels attached to them, that they want to be free to do what they want to do and not have to be accountable for.
Yeah.
My thing is, you're free to do what you want to do, but you should be upfront with those individuals that you're doing it with. And that's what Nola did. Nola was like, look, this is who I am.
I don't want to be tied down.
Y'all need to accept it, or you can, you can roll on, which is, and the interesting part about the movie was just about these three men that said, hey, you know what? I wanna still deal with Nola because I like who she is as a person.
Yeah.
I liked who she is. And now, of course, the men didn't like the fact that she was dealing with the other men, which I believe that's going to happen whether it's a man dating multiple women or if it's a woman dating multiple men. You ain't trying to share nobody. I'm sorry. Maybe some men are willing to, but I'm sorry. I don't know one brother that would eat to this day. I'm telling you, they don't even want to think about their ex-girlfriend being with another man. You don't even want to have that thought. So it was great to see how Spike interwove that story of this young lady who was unashamedly who she was and wasn't going to allow anybody to label her. And say, look, y'all can accept people who I am, and and deal with it, or not deal with it and roll on. So I thought everything that Spike did in this movie, from the music, because I love jazz. So because his father did the music, I think did the soundtrack. So it was just really interesting how he told the story. You know what I mean? I love it. I really enjoyed it again, watching it again. So
it is, and I agree. And tell the people where you watched it again if they want to watch it. Where did you see it?
Oh, I went on Netflix. If you go to Netflix and you put in She's Gotta Have It, the movie, you'll get the other, like you were saying, the series. That's going to come up too, but you will see the movie She's Gotta Have It there. So you can,
and I'm so glad that. And I didn't really. And that's good. And thank you for telling everyone, because I know the series is on there and I love the series, and we'll talk about that a little later. That got mixed reviews, but I loved it. I think it could have really had a season 3 because they were willing to do that. But I will talk about that later. But I didn't know that the movie is on Netflix. So everybody, if you haven't seen the movie or you haven't seen it in a long time, definitely give him that love and support and check it out on Netflix. Because now, I'm gonna be honest with you, now women are more open. And when I was younger, of course, you had the ones that were very liberated sexually and would be that way. I wasn't, and it's almost a stigma, or you're afraid to do that, or you're afraid to date more than one person. Even as grown women, a lot of women are afraid to date. Now, dating doesn't mean that you're sleeping with everyone. It just means that you're dividing your time. And if you're sleeping with everyone, then that's not my business. That's your business anyway.
That's the thing about Nola. Nola was sleeping with all three.
And that's what I was getting I was getting to that. So but what I was saying is, even just dating multiple people, even if you're not sleeping with them, some women have a hard time doing that. I could never do that. And I would look at the women who were very liberated in that aspect. I wouldn't say in admiration, but almost like, dang, they're owning their sexuality and they don't care what anybody thinks. And even now I can still say, wow, they're owning it. But it is a judgment, and it was a judgment if you had women who were sleeping with multiple men. They were a hoe, or like she said, they were a freak. Why do you have to put labels on it? So even now, you have the group of women who will do it and think nothing. And then you have the group of women who will judge them about what they're doing. And at the end of the day, if it's that lady is doing it, that's her business. And if the men know, which she was very upfront with, they knew. And they were almost vying for 100% of her time. And I love
No, they
this.
were.
Like, yeah. Go
Well,
ahead.
they were vying for her time.
Yeah, 100%. No, but nobody wanted a little quarter piece, because she got to have her quarter. Then the one guy, Mars, got to have his. Like, everybody had to have their quarter piece, and everybody wanted 100. So you want to talk about that?
Well, I think them vying for a time because they decided to stay. They had the adage, well, hey, I think the men, and this is just me of being observant of the movie, was that they felt like they could convince Nola to be with just them. They thought they were going to change her mind, as a lot of
that's testosterone.
No, that's not the testosterone, because you have, on the flip side, when you have a man dating multiple women.
No, I mean testosterone, meaning that I'm the man. It should be me. I'm talking about like that.
No, that's what I'm saying. Women do the same thing. If you have a man that's
no, we're talking about women, the movie. I'm talking about the movie.
Well, yeah, I mean they did. They were like, look, I'm gonna be the one to change her mind. She's gonna fall in love with me. She's gonna have no choice but to want to be with me because I'm so magnificent. I mean, and each of them actually, if you think about it, and I think what's the brother, the one that played what's his name, Greer, the one that played Greer, which was John Kennedy. I think he said in the movie that he wanted, he didn't feel as if the other guys were up to him, that were as good as him, because he was, he had the car, he had the money, he had the body, all of those things. He thought he was,
he was the bomb, right?
Yeah, he thought this is big. But each of them, if you look at it, and I think he said, or it might have been Spike in Mars, that said that a piece of each of them was the total man for Nola. She dated.
But that's Spike. How women feel. I was gonna bring that up. Go ahead, finish. I want to hear what you say as a man, and then I'm going to talk about it.
Well, she dated each of them for a specific reason. She dated Mars because he was funny. She loved to laugh. He made her laugh. If you noticed in the movie, he always tried to make her laugh. Yeah. Especially the one scene. And I don't know if you're talking about the one scene where he says, "Did you know that I was a superhero back in the day?"
Yeah.
That's scene. But he would do stuff like that to make her laugh. So he dated her because he was funny.
Because he was real too.
Right. I think she dated Greer because he was organized, he was well-to-do, that kind of, and then my boy Jamie, he was that stability. He was the dude that she would say would be the husband. You know what I mean? To me, I was thinking that he was that husband type that she wanted, that security that she wanted. She knew she could depend on him. She could count on him to be there, do what he needed to do. He was going to be there to take care of her, and not just take care of her, but be there with her, and she accomplish everything like that. So I think all of those reasons, she found not one guy, but she found 3 guys to make that one guy that she ultimately wanted.
Now, every woman wants all of those things in a man, but depending on how you were raised or what you think that you have to have one man, especially Black folks who are in the church or uber religious, whatever religion not even just Black folks, whatever religion, if you are religious and if you are, if you don't want the condemnation to come down and you try to do everything right, you know, even though you fornicate, you like, well, I ain't gonna fornicate with 3 people, I'm gonna just fornicate with 1. But every woman wants, you know, we've often been known to say that, dang, James, Greer, Mars, whatever their names are that you know, like, dang, I wish he had his charm. I wish he had his humor. I wish he had his stability. I wish I could wrap them all in one. You've heard women say it all the time. We've said it. I know I've said it before. I've had conversations with women who feel that way. So she said, you know what? I'm going to get the one that does this. I'm going to get the one that does that. And I'm going to get I'm going to get Greer, James, and Mars. And that's how I'm going to do it. And I think, like I keep saying, in 1986, that was big, because I remember when the movie came out, you know, people were saying what the trailer said, that why do I have to be a freak just because I want to have sex with more than one person? Why do I have to be this freak? Or why, you know, why is the label there? And I just wanted to read just a few things about Spike for a minute, just some trivia, and then we're going to get back to the show. But I just lost it. 1 second. I had it locked and loaded. Okay. So since this is Spike Lee month and we're kicking it off throughout the shows, I'm just going to give trivia on Spike Lee. Some trivia that you know very well, and some you may be surprised by. All right. So he graduated from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts in 1982. But everybody knows, of course, many don't know that, but everybody knows he graduated from Morehouse in Atlanta, Georgia in 1979. He has 2 children and his wife, 2 grown children, his wife, Tanya, daughter, Satchel Lee, named after Satchel Paige, and his son, Jackson Lee, who is the oldest. Between the making of his award-winning student shorts, Joe's Bed-Stuy Barbershop, We Cut Heads, that came in 1983. People don't realize that he, you know, he had that student short. And his debut feature is She's Gotta Have It, which we're talking about today, in 1986. Lee attempted to make a featured called Messenger. Over $100,000 was raised, but the film never materialized. So it doesn't say if it was right after that. It doesn't say if it was before She's Gotta Have It. But I just wanted to encourage folks that, you know, even though She's Gotta Have It was his first movie, it wasn't his first effort. And when people saw this movie, as I said in the beginning, that it grossed $7.1 million and it was made with $175,000. Now, some might have looked at that film and said, you know what, it's brilliant, like Leroy and I are talking about. But others looked and said, I don't know about this Spike Lee. I don't know if he's going to make it, you know, because he's too different. And a lot of times when you kick the door down and you do things differently, everybody is not on board. Some people are right there on board from the beginning. And then some people, it takes time for them to see and to understand what he's doing. But if you talk to a lot of filmmakers who are younger than Spike Lee, they'll say, John Singleton will say it. Remember Matty Rich from the Inkwell? You know, a lot of different filmmakers talk about Spike Lee all the time, especially Black filmmakers. And as I just talked about Inkwell, it just came to me that Suzanne Douglas passed away today at the age of 64. Please keep her and her family in your prayers. That saddened me when I heard that last night. She passed, I think, late last night, early this morning. All right. So what you got to say about what else you got to say about She's Gotta Have It, because I was going to read some more trivia about She's Gotta Have It. But I wanted to ask you, what scene sticks out the most to you since you just watched it? What was the scene now as your 52-year-old self watching She's Gotta Have It? What stuck out to you when you rewatched this movie?
Well, a couple scenes, like I said, the one that I just told you, when Spike was, when Mars and Nola, man, he said Nola, he's being an irritant to her because she trying to sleep, and she's like, "What?" He's like, "Did you know I used to be a superhero?"
What you say? I didn't hear the last part when he was trying to sleep with her.
No, no.
Yeah.
They were in the bed together, and he said he kept
Oh.
saying no, and he's like, "Did you know I used to be a superhero?" And so I guess he does. You gotta watch the movie to see what he does, but he makes her laugh. It's hilarious. He makes her laugh. So that stuck out to me. And then the Thanksgiving scene with them all having dinner together stuck out to me. I'm just like, yeah, okay, that wouldn't have been me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So those were probably two right offhand that I think about that stuck out to me as far as that I just think that and then one more was when Greer and Nola were getting ready to go to bed, and he
go to bed,
and he's literally folding his clothes.
Yeah, so, he was that guy. He was that guy. But that's the thing. It is so funny you said go to bed. But
I'm trying to be PG with it.
I know. But folding it. But that's the thing. And when you think about his tidiness and professionalism and tightness almost, and then you think then you think of the wildness of Mars, right? Then you think of James, like the artsy, the in-between kind of vibe. I wonder with Spike Lee if he felt that way, because I know you said all a piece, and we talked about that, like a piece of Spike is in everyone. Anybody that's a writer, you're going to implement yourself and your experiences in the writing. But what some may not know about this movie is that it was shot in 12 days because the budget was so tight. There was no retakes. They weren't able to afford the retake. And if you know about retakes, that's like when you do it over, then back then it was a certain film that you have. And if the budget is tight just to have this amount of film, then you have to make that amount of film stretch. It's totally different now. But think about when he made this in the 80s. So it was that, I know in the 80s, they used that reel film, the reel to reels. So it's a certain amount of film on there. So if you do a retake, you're taking away from the other part of the film that you need to complete the movie. And the budget was tight. So whenever the cast broke for a meal, Spike would tell them not to throw away any aluminum cans so they could turn them in for the recycling money. Now, some young people might be like, what is that? But you could turn in your cans back in the day for 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents, depending on where, and you could get money back for those cans. So now people just recycle and put them in the bin or take them to a recycling plant. But back then you could get money for them. So I found that that's interesting, and hopefully that's inspiring for, some people who want to do it. And now just imagine, okay, the ingenuity of Spike Lee and how he was trying to piece his money together and raise money and use credit cards and ask his, family members for money, or, graduating from NYU and going to Morehouse. And, I remember his cousin, who was Malcolm Lee, who did The Best Man and all of those amazing movies. He lived in Spike's basement. And before he was a filmmaker, and he said, I think on an episode of Unsung, when they were doing Unsung Hollywood, he was talking about how he was watching Spike and how Spike influenced him so much and helped him. Because if that's your cousin, like at first, you're not really listening or paying attention because that's your cousin, but you don't realize the brilliance until you're around it until you're actually seeing the different things he's doing and the nuggets he's dropping. And then you look like, wow, Spike Lee was really doing that. So when I think about Spike Lee and I think about this movie, I think about someone who is leading the pack opposed to following the pack. When you think of Spike Lee, even when I look at the picture behind you, which I got off of his Instagram, he got his pink suit on. You know, he has, you can't see him, but he has like one of a kind Jordans on there that he said they just made, you know, for him. He has those. And when I think about Spike, I think about him at the New York Knicks games. And I think about so many different things that he set the tone for. When you think about Spike Lee, like, what do you think when you think about Spike Lee? What comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, I think of an innovator. I think of someone who, he to me, I mean, I know that there were some that were before him, like Mario, not Mario, but his father. I forgot his father's name. I don't remember his father's name, but he was one of the, you know, one of those independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
Spike wasn't one to go through the regular studios in order to put his projects, because he wanted to do things the way he wanted to do it. He didn't want Hollywood telling him how to do his movies.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like, for our generation, I believe, he was that first independent filmmaker.
Yeah.
Said, look, you know, I may have to ask people, you know, to donate money and everything like that, but that's, you know, that's because I'm trying to do it the way that I want to do it, and I don't want to have to answer to the powers that be in Hollywood. Same thing that Tyler Perry did. He's like, I'm not going to Hollywood because I don't want Hollywood to tell me how to dictate, you know, how to do things. And I think that Tyler Perry got what he does and the way he does it from Spike. How Spike Lee did it. Spike was like, look, I'm his, not just his innovativeness in that, but the innovativeness in the way that he shot a movie. He wasn't doing it the traditional cookie cutter box way. Hollywood wanted them to do movies.
Yeah.
Spike was like, I have my own lane, I have my own way of doing things, and I'm going to stick with what's done his career. And except for maybe a couple of movies, Inside Man, and maybe a couple others that he did, that you know, that we know of that were kind of mainstream, whatever. But the majority of Spike's movies were independent movies done outside of the realm of Hollywood, and they were done his way. It was done the way that he wanted to shoot it, saw it from his eyes, his perspective, and the way that he saw and thought that it should be, that story should be told. Yeah. So that's what I think about when I think about Spike. You know,
I love that you mentioned Tyler Perry, because of course it's been reported that they've had beef, or I should say that Spike Lee was uncomfortable or disliked how Tyler was making his movies and the stereotypes and the cooning of Medea and all of that. But what I thought was pretty dope, and we were able to see it all through social media a couple years ago when Tyler Perry opened his studio. And we know that each studio lot is named after someone he admires, someone that contributed to this game of movie and television. And one of the lots was the Spike Lee lot. So I love the fact that as two Black men, they were able to come together, and even with Spike saying, not, hey, Tyler, I don't like you as a person, just saying some of the work that you're doing, maybe it should be done like this, or I don't like that you're not pushing us forward, or whatever it was. And for them to be grown Black men and say, you know what, at the end of the day, I still respect you. You still respect me. And for Tyler Perry to say, this is the Spike Lee lot, it's paying homage. So if you look at all the people he named the lots after, and everyone, you guys can go back and just Google Tyler Perry Studios and see the different people from Cicely Tyson, Oprah, you know, everybody that contributed. And Spike Lee, I remember seeing him and his wife Tanya there. By the way, let's not skate past that they've been married 28 years, almost 30 years. You don't hear no scandal about Spike Lee with this woman and this undercover, people got this recording of this, at the end of the day, he is that family man. And to see him and his wife there when they did the unveiling, like that really did my soul good. Like, come on, Spike, because people used to make Spike, let's just be real, people used to make fun of Spike all the time. How he spoke, how little he was, how pigeon-toed he was. They would talk about, like, why is he doing, his famous thing. He did it in Malcolm X and all the movies where they're still, but they're moving, but it looks like they're still, like Spike brought that. I've seen people now try to copycat that. But when Spike was doing it, they were like, this ain't what, they weren't getting it. Everybody, let's be clear, was not on the Spike Lee train when he came out with She's Gotta Have It, or when he came out with his different style of filmmaking and his opinionated voice. Everybody wasn't feeling it. I thought it was bold. I thought it was brave. And every time Spike had a joint, I was there. I think this is probably, I was in high school when this came out. And this was probably the one Spike Lee movie that I didn't see at the movie, because you got to think about high school, the concept, it was different. Like, some women worked with that. You get what I'm saying? But it was different. And I want to think, with women, like, men don't get the same thing as women get. Or do they? Tell me, when you were growing up, was it like, okay, until you be liberated, date as many people as you want, sleep with as many people as you want, you own your body? Were you taught that?
No.
As a man?
No.
Right.
Yeah, but I think,
but some people,
I think, I just think that men and women, depending on your family upbringing, you weren't taught that. You were taught that, hey, you were to, date someone, but you did. To me, I've always, and I don't know what everybody else is taught. I know me personally, even back then, '86 in high school, I've always had the attitude, I just wanted to date one person at a time. I wasn't dating multiple girls at a time and everything like that, because it just wasn't me. I've always felt that anybody that dates multiple men or multiple women, you can't be fully into that person, those people that you're dating, because they don't have your full attention. That, like Nola, this person had your attention for this reason. This person had your attention for this reason. This person had your attention for that reason. So you were looking at you didn't get a chance to know the full person, because you were only with them for that particular reason. And even just dating. If you were just dating someone, if I'm going out with multiple women, I'm seeing one girl on Tuesday, I'm seeing another one on Thursday, and I'm seeing another one on Saturday. I'm trying to keep the names together so that I don't call them the wrong name. And then at the same time too, how can I be focused on the one when I know, hey, I got either another date that I'm going on, or I've been on another date. She, the other girl did this, as opposed to this one is doing this. So I just never wanted to get involved with that. If I dated someone, then I was only dating that person for that time frame, for whatever time frame we were dating. And then if that ended, then moved on to the next person. There's some people that disagree with that and think, hey, you should be able to date who you want. And hey, if that's your cup of tea, that's your cup of tea. That's what that's what you do, and everything like that. But I just like the way that Spike did it. He did it in such a way too, where it wasn't a thing where she was necessarily keeping it from the other men. Everybody knew that she was dating more, that she was dating more than one woman, which meant they could also date more than just her.
And they can make a decision to not date her at all if they choose not to. And because she was very clear and very liberated. And I just keep saying it, but you guys have to understand too. No, you don't with the red Solo cup. I know that's right.
I'm sorry. That's what I got on you say.
No, you're fine. But this is officially a Black show.
Oh, see.
When you get the red Solo cup involved, it means this is officially, we put a stamp on it, a Black show. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking, but not. It's so funny because, and I keep saying this to stress that, because in 2021, people are so liberated and so honest. Yes, with their sexuality, people are like, don't shame them, don't body shame them. They can, if that's their body, if they want to have sex with 5 people, they can. Honesty, that's where people are now. When you talk to young people now, the millennials, that's what they say. That's what they stand on, and that's what they feel. I'm not saying they don't have morals or values, but they have the idea. Now, I'm not saying that somebody now won't call somebody a freak or a hoe or something like that, or judge them, because we'll still have that group forever and ever, amen, that people are going to do that. But now people are like, it's her body. If she's honest with them, people are more lenient now.
Well, I mean,
nobody wants to stand up and say anything.
Well, I think that we've gotten, and this is just me, this is not Kendell, this is not anybody else, but I think we've gotten to a point in society where we're coddling people, as opposed to saying, this is, if what you say, we call a spade a spade. If this is the definition of what a freak is, sleeping with multiple men, multiple women at the same time, and that is what it is.
Yeah.
There's no, hey, trying to sugarcoat it or trying to say, no, you can do what you want to do. Well, no, we can't. We have to understand that there are boundaries, there are rules, if you will, that we as a society, that we abide by, or that we live by, if we want to consider someone who has morals. Like you said, someone who has morals. Well, morality means you conduct yourself in such a way. Yeah. And if you conduct yourself outside of that, then yes, then you're immoral. That's, I mean, we can't be too soft with
it. Everybody's moral compass, and everybody's moral compass is different. That's true. You know what I mean? Like some people raise people differently. Like it's certain, but I think religion comes into play for a lot of Black folks.
Well, you don't have to throw religion in it. We can just talk morality. Take the religion aspect of it out of it. Yeah. Talk about morals.
Yeah. Yeah.
What morals do you have now? There's a difference between someone that may be have morals, and then there's someone that that may not have any morals and just doesn't care. I'm gonna do what I want to do. It doesn't matter. I mean, and we should have the adage that we don't care about us, But if you're gonna do what you do, then like you said, be unashamed about it. Like, hey, like Nola was like, y'all call me what you want to. Yeah. But this is who I am, like it or not. Yeah. That was the thing about Nola. She was like, look, y'all can call me a freak. Y'all can put the label on it all you want to. That's you all. He didn't allow society to define who she was. Nola defined Nola. You know what I'm saying?
And I wouldn't have been, honestly, I wouldn't have been in 1986 in high school. And I know she wasn't in high school then, but even as a younger woman, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like I was not bold enough to do that. My, the way that I was reared was still heavy on the decisions that I made and how I conducted myself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was still that. It was still like, really like, okay, that's not right. This is right. And that's not. So I wouldn't have been able to do that. So I never thought about it, never really judged her for it. It was until I watched it again as an adult. And I was like, Spike tackles a lot of issues to make you think. So we know blatant, which we'll talk about, do the right thing. We clearly see cut and dry what the issue was, what he was trying to do. Even in Crooklyn and telling his story about how he was raised. Even when you do School Days, it was very intentional. We know what Spike was trying to do, right? So even in this movie, it sets the trend for his career to say, I'm not doing a movie if it's not going to provoke thought, it's not going to challenge someone, it's not going to have someone look at themselves to see how they respond. Like, you could see the trend in his movies. If you look at all of his movies, you can see that they were very intentional and they weren't just fluff and buffoonery. And I think that's the problem that he had with Tyler. Because of that. You know what I mean? I think that's the problem, because his movies were very conscious, even if it was some maybe buffoonery in it or some, you know, something. Do you hear, are you playing in the background? Okay. So even if it's, you know, because you're laughing in Spike Lee's movies and he does have comic relief, it's just not beat you over the head with a message. Right. But I think it's very intentional. And the woman in the dress thing has come up a million times with Black folks and saying that these Black men in dresses and it's not cool to do that, and the buffoonery. So that's always an issue or a topic. And I think that was Spike's main issue. All right, so back to some trivia. Do you know that Spike Lee wanted to cast Eric LaSalle of ER fame as Greer Childs? LaSalle thought the role was too shallow and he wasn't eligible because he joined the Screen Actors Guild. So, like I said, a lot of people weren't on board. I bet you Eric LaSalle wish he was on board with Spike Lee right now.
So Spike didn't use SAG people for his movie? Or maybe for that
maybe
one,
maybe because it was his first, maybe it didn't qualify.
That's what I'm thinking too,
Yeah, maybe it didn't qualify, but he thought it was too shallow, you know, but he didn't think that Coming to America with him playing, you know, a punk boyfriend with a Jerry curl. I guess that's when he was like, oh, I need this check now, you know, and plus Eddie Murphy was established. So you jumped on that established train opposed to someone just starting out. And that's the thing. People got to jump on the train when they're starting out. Wait
a minute. In 86, where was Eric LaSalle? He wasn't established.
Right, but people still have that mindset that I recognize who Eddie Murphy is, so let me get on this. But what a lot of people don't know, you got to start sometime in the basement with someone, because if you ride with somebody when they're not fully there, or once they're there, think about Spike Lee's movies and Juan Carlo Esposito and everybody he has that started with him, continue with him. Because if you ride with me in the valley, when I get to the mountaintop, you coming.
And that's another great thing about Spike Lee, was those folks that rode with him from day one, he took them along. If you notice, She's Gotta Have It didn't have, I'm looking at the cast, there weren't too many, but as he moved in his movies,
my friends, Tracy Johns is my friend's wife at the time. I don't know if they're still married, but that was my friend's wife, that Tracy Johns, Camilla Johns, the one that made Nola.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so
nobody knew who she was.
He stuck with many of those actors that they got their beginnings with him. He stayed with them. I mean, Giancarlo, rode with him since
Juan Carlo,
since Do the Right Thing, he was in several. And what's the other guy too?
I know who you're talking about.
And I can't think. I think he's
the
Italian.
one that
is he Italian? He was in Do the Right Thing. He was the brother. He was one of the brothers. He's been in multiple Spike joints, and him and I think Giancarlo are probably to me the best actors that came out of that Spike Lee.
And the other actor, don't forget the other one, I can't think of his name. The guy that did the mumbling and Do the Right Thing. Remember?
Oh, yeah, him too. Yep.
I can't think of his name. And of course Samuel Jackson is just. He was Sam when he was working with Spike. And then he became Samuel when he started growing. But back, if you look at some of the old clips, it was Sam Jackson. I remember when he changed it, because he made the announcement, he goes by Samuel L or Samuel L or whatever. Jackson. But you know, that's just like they say.
Yeah, so those are the things, you know, that was the great thing about him.
Yeah.
That was one of the other great things about Spike was his loyalty to the folks that he, you know, knew did great work, and you know, and he could see working with them on multiple projects and anything like that. So
yeah.
He gave a lot of folks their start, and here we go with the similarity between him and Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry did the same thing. He gave a lot of folks big thoughts as well too. So Tyler Perry kind of mimicked his career a little bit after Spike, if you ask me, because they kind of look similar. They look like they went the independent route. They weren't asking people to, you know, they weren't asking Hollywood to, you know, they weren't knocking on Hollywood's door. They made Hollywood knock on their door, so to speak. So and I've always, even with that beef or conflict that Spike had with Tyler, the thing that I've always that I wish that would happen, and maybe it still will, was that him and Spike would work together on producing more projects that they have. Since he has the studio, I'm like, Spike is one of the greatest directors, writers of Black cinema. Here you are, you've taken what Spike did to the next level, which was owning the studio.
Yeah.
You know, so you're able to now, those projects that Spike got told no on, because I'm sure Spike had, you know, projects that he was told no on, or he just didn't have the funding to be able to do it, the backing to be able to do it. And
because he didn't have that financial success like Tyler.
Right. He didn't have that financial piece, and Tyler has that financial piece now too, to go along with having the big studio, and he could put the backing behind even, you know, a Spike Lee, even the projects that he may have. And it's not just about him, you know, Tyler Perry and his projects, you know. So I would hope that they would work together, in, you know, in some kind of capacity, you know, to do things like that, because I think that would be just so phenomenal. You know, you have one of the pioneers of Black cinema, who has, you know, just multiple stuff, and someone who has taken what Spike did to that next level and given us the ability to be able to give the green light to projects, you know, and everything like that. So, you know, those are similarities that I see. I mean, with you know, with Spike from She's Gotta Have It all the way to his, you know, to his last movie, and even we didn't even get into this. You know, we'll talk, but Spike's documentaries that he's done, because he's done a couple of documentaries that have just been phenomenal. You know, and everything.
His job is always to inform and make us think.
Right. Exactly. He always had, from day one with his movies. His movie is always, like you said, is going to give you a message. There's messages within the projects that he does.
Yeah.
Even like I told you, I mean, I just love this movie because even the art, even the art that was in this movie was, I was just like, man, Spike is just doing his thing.
Yes.
Nobody else is, to me, and maybe you can say, because you're probably more of a movie connoisseur than me. Can you think of another movie that was shot like this?
No.
And gave you that feel?
No. And it, because he did. He showcased Black artists. He showcased Zora Neale Hurston's poetry in this. Like, he made us
the movie off with the poem.
Right.
The poetry.
There you go. And that's what, and it's so, and he does that in a way, again, to educate us and to make us aware. You know, if you weren't a writer, or if you didn't read Zora Neale Hurston's work, we talked about her when we did Disappearing Acts, and how the character Zora was named after her. But legendary, historic, you know, where some people may not have heard her work in words.
Right.
With the beautiful artists he had on there, some may have never seen their work. The cinematography, like we said, it was photos that came to life.
Right.
It really was. Like, he did that so well. And, you know, with the movie being about a woman with 3 lovers, and they talked about sex, some people weren't ready for that when it came out. And, and some judged it. But when the critics judged it, they liked it. The majority liked it, and I think that that's so powerful. So when I was excited when because my kids hadn't seen She's Gotta Have It, they were born in the 90s. And I remember they were like, well, did you see Spike Lee's movie She's Gotta Have It? And we were like, oh yeah, they're making it a Netflix show. So when he decided to revamp that, he kept the same energy in today's world. Spike that, and some people were like, season 2 fell off. That's why. But people didn't understand it. Season 2 was so artistic, and he went places where people would not go in television or the stories. But season 1 came out, same concept. Nola Darling had the same, the characters, and did the same thing. And DeWanda Wise looks similar. I know they say Tracy Camilla Johns looks like Kelly Rowland. It sounds like her.
She does look like her. Or I should say Kelly looks like her. Because Kelly, right. She's older.
That could be Kelly's mama.
Right, exactly.
And then, but you see DeWanda Wise, and it was a great role for her to play. It was even though they don't look alike, it still put me in the mind of her. And it was just something about the way she played the role. And it went further in the series other than sex. Yes, she was still with all three of them, still concept. She was still Nola Darling. They still knew what was up. They were still vying for her attention and trying to be the only one. They implemented a lot of things in there. So season 1, in the beginning, they focused on the sex and the relationships, and you've seen, sex scenes. But then it was so much more than that. As a woman in New York, trying to be liberated, finding her own path, studying her art. She was an artist, and trying to see where she fits in this world with men and outside of men. And because it was a series, it got to tell a longer story opposed to the movie. And this is the concept, even though Spike still touched on some of these things in the movie, but in the series, this makes me want to watch the series again. Just us doing this, because when I was ready for it when it came out, and then just the whole journey of her. And then season 2, it was conscious. It was about what's happening now. It was that Spike Lee kind of make you think. And it was less about the sex and less about, they talked about body positivity. A character in there had to get she got plastic surgery because she wanted to look a certain way in her profession. And she thought, so it talked about that. It talked about consciousness and art. And it was just a step further where it should be in 2017 when it came out. The way that he did that. And I was so upset that it got canceled. And people were like, the season 2 wasn't good. I was like, because y'all are not getting it. With this generation, they want to be instantly gratified, and they're not seeing beyond, because attention spans are not, they're like this, but they weren't seeing. But as an older woman, I'm like, yes, it was good. Did you see the series?
No.
You gotta watch it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the series, but
you gotta watch it.
What Spike kind of reminds me of, in addition to Tyler Perry, who I think of and who I thought of when I watched this was Issa Rae, and how she was unafraid to do her movies her way.
But you know where it started. I knew about Issa Rae long before my daughter was watching her web series on YouTube. That's how she started. Like, she had a web series called Awkward Black Girl. And I remember years ago, my daughter had me looking at it, and it was just shorts, just short episodes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, just short. And how she catapulted that. That's why I said if Spike was doing it now, he would be even more of a beast with the tools that we have now to create. But I love the fact he did it then, because that shows really how dope he was. If he could do it then, where it's not so it wasn't so plentiful. But Issa Rae is a good example of that because she created it based off of that. And now she's telling her story and helping people through like a Black lady sketch show on HBO. She's executive producer of that, and she's guiding that with Robin Thede. But no, go ahead and please finish. I think that's a great example.
I love artists, and you talked about that people didn't get the second season of She's Gotta Have It.
The third. It didn't get the third.
The third season. But that's the thing about art, whether it's movies, whether it's music, whether it's art as far as like the drawings and paintings and everything like that. Art is so eclectic. It's not it's almost like to me, it's almost like jazz. Everybody doesn't get jazz. Everybody doesn't feel it. Everybody doesn't understand it. But somebody who enjoys and loves jazz enjoys the creativity behind it. Enjoys, hey, I may feel one thing from it, but you as another jazz lover will get something totally different from it. And that's the great thing about being a movie maker like Spike. Spike is like, look, it's not about, everybody getting the same thing from it, because I'm going to give you a message and everybody's going to take from that message their own little piece. And I think this is outside when I talk about, I guess, artists. I also think about the musical artist, Missy Elliott. If you ever watch Missy's videos, Missy does videos like nobody else. Her video, a Missy Elliott video when you see it. You be like, that's Missy. She doesn't say, hey, I've got to fit into this particular kind of box in doing my music and doing a video that accentuates the music that I do my way. And I see what
she's
Spike
an individual.
Yeah. And that's the way that Spike came out with She's Gotta Have It. He was like, look, I'm going to be who I am. And like you said, it set the tone for the rest of his career. And the way that he did it, he was intentional about the way that he did it, because he said, look, I want to make sure that people know that this is who Spike Lee is. This is who 40 Acres and a Mule brand is. This is what you're going to get when you see a Spike Lee joint. You know what you're going to get. It's going to be creative. It's going to capture your mind. It's going to be well written. It's going to tell you a story in a certain way. All along.
And it's not mainstream.
Right. Exactly.
It's not going to, nothing about it is going to look identical or copycat to something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was just blown away, like I said, watching it again about the black and white. I was just like, I was like, Spike, you did that thing with that black and white, because I can't think of another movie that could have been done in black and white that would have come out like this.
It's a movie, and it's a movie on Netflix. And it's called 40-Year-Old Version, not Virgin. Version.
Right.
It's so good. And it's all in black and white. I saw it a couple years ago, and then I saw it again. And I'm just trying to look. Her name escapes me, and as soon as I see it, I'll know who she is. I can't think of her name right now. I'm gonna tell you in a minute. And she's an older filmmaker. Okay. And it's not Virgin, it's Version. So basically, she's like this 40-year-old rapper, but it's not just that. Like Spike makes you think, like the movie made me cry because of you getting older and you're thinking about what you should have done, what you did do. Is it too late for this? Is it too late for that? And I wanted to get Rada Blank. So everybody, if you haven't seen that, support this woman. You can tell she's from New York. You can tell she studied Spike Lee. Okay. And it's called 40-Year-Old Version, Version, because she's the 40-year-old version of herself. And she goes through this, and it came out January 2020. And I've seen it twice, and I will watch it again, but she does it in black and white. I just wanted to just acknowledge that if you have seen She's Gotta Have It, the new version in 2017, the series. Definitely go back and watch where it came from, and you can see a lot of similarities, and he kept a lot of the same formula. But what I think is pretty dope, that Spike Lee's sister Joy was the mother of DeWanda Wise, who played Nola Darling in the series. So he had his sister in it. So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, she played Nola Darling's mother. And Mars Blackman, who was played by Anthony Reyes, and a lot of people know he was in Hamilton. But I like the fact that Spike, he was little like Spike. He had the same, like, it was perfect. He reprised Mars Blackman. And I'm glad Spike was like, I'm not going to try to do that. Let me give that to somebody else. Because, you know, somebody still would have been hanging on like, that's mine. But he did very well with that. And some more trivia about the show, that he had Fat Joe in it. And that was his first TV appearance. So Spike Lee gave him that. And the actress who plays Nola Darling starred as Shamika in the TV series. Everybody knows Shots Fired. And one of Nola's friends in the series is Shamika. So that it was just like a lot of different coincidences in the movie. So in episode 2 of the actual series, the character Mars Blackman is wearing a baseball cap with the word Crooklyn on it. So Crooklyn was, of course, another of Spike Lee's joint. So I love the fact that he still incorporated his stuff in it, but he incorporated the old movie, but he made it new and fresh with a lot of the things that we were going through now. And I love that he showed that, yes, this is about sexual liberation and being honest and sleeping with, you know, being able to do what you want with your body and sleeping with other and who doesn't care, who judges. But I'm glad that he made Nola evolve. So I thought that was pretty dope. I said, even in the series, he's still trying to do the Spike thing, which you got to respect. At the end of the day, Spike Lee is going to be Spike Lee. He's going to be outspoken about Black issues and issues that plague our community. He's going to be upfront. No one is going to stop him from talking. And I love the fact that he ain't scared. He ain't scared.
And that's the thing that made him such an innovator, was that he wasn't scared from a consciousness perspective, but then also as a director, as a writer, he wasn't afraid to say, I don't want to do it like everybody else. I'm going to do it the way that I see it in my head. And for those that are any kind of artist, you can't be afraid to do what you feel. And you know, I know a lot, you know, this is the day and time where folks want to get paid and they want to get the big paychecks and everything like that.
Yeah.
But that, I'm gonna tell y'all, I'm gonna say it again, that comes at a cost. Both come at a cost. And the question is, what cost are you willing to pay? Spike was like, I'm willing to pay that cost of Hollywood may not come knocking at my door. I don't care if Hollywood comes knocking at my door.
If they knock, I ain't answering. How about that?
Because they're gonna tell me that they want it done a certain way. So it doesn't
they're
matter.
Gonna water, or I'm gonna make up a word. They're gonna de-black the movie.
Exactly. And that's the other cost. Down. That's the other cost. Are you willing to pay the cost of being watered down or being de-blacked?
And he's not.
Which we know there's been a lot of us in Hollywood that has happened to.
When those dollar signs come, they start shucking and jiving because they're trying to get that dollar bill. Their integrity is gone. And that's a good word for Spike Lee. Like, he keeps his integrity in it all. So, and also what I like about Spike Lee is, even though he created Nola Darling and he wrote the movie She's Gotta Have It, and he wrote the concept and he directed it, I love the fact that he's not afraid to work with other people. We often talk about Tyler Perry needs to share the role of writer to other people. And even in the series that Spike did of She's Gotta Have It, he didn't write every episode.
Really? Okay.
He directed. So that's why the nuances, and it was so much, you can tell he's the creative director. and that's his concept. But he also gave the voice to other people to write for her, and that's what made it even more layered. He directed it, and he still, of course, was there, and his wife was influential in this as well. I remember when they were promoting it together, which I loved, but he wasn't the only one that wrote for it. But he
was the executive producer for the series, right?
Yes, yeah. He was involved, but he didn't say, I need to write every single episode.
Right.
It wasn't like that. Where some people are really like, they like that ownership of it all. He didn't have nothing to prove. We already know it came from Spike. We already know that he has to oversee and to prove whatever. But he didn't just say, you know what? He gave other people work. He gave other people jobs and said, you know what? What do you think about this character? And that's what I love. He didn't write every single one. So this trivia that I wanted to say, you're going to be able to tell. A lot of people don't know that Spike is a big fan of musicals from Hollywood's golden age. So when you think about she's just a wanna be better than me, that's a theatrical musical, right?
Absolutely.
So even in this movie, She's Gotta Have It, think about when it turned from black and white to the Happy Birthday. Where it was color. Remember, they were dancing and singing.
They did that was like a going to a ballet
musical.
A musical. Yeah, right. I love that, and I love that.
I love it too.
Yeah, because that gave the movie layers, because and you could see the shift, because like you said, you went from the black and white, then all of a sudden, boom! I'm gonna give you this
and it was It was good.
Splash of color, and even within the splash of color, I'm going to give you something that's creative, that's artistic. That's where the art comes in.
Yeah.
Where, because ballet, or like you were saying, theatrical, that's artistic. That takes creativity. And then I'm gonna take you up, but then I'm gonna bring you back down to the black and white again, and you'll get all of it being together. You'll get all of it being together and everything.
And this is what we're talking about. So the movie is all black and white, and then this comes up. Let me start it for you. Let me start it.
Yeah, a little bit before that starts, because that's the black and white.
And watch how it changes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I have another surprise for you. Turn around. If I told you it wouldn't be a surprise, now turn around, and close your eyes. No peeking. I want you to click your heels together 3 times and repeat after me. There's no place like home.
Oh, come on.
Come on now, just for the surprise. There's no place like home.
This better be good.
It's gonna be.
Kelly Rowland even sounds like her a little bit.
Right.
There's no place like home. 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 There's no place like home.
Bam.
And you can't even see on here how vivid it is.
Right. That doesn't do it justice.
When you watch it yourself, you'll see. I mean, because I'm doing a recording of a recording type.
Right. That's the reel to reel that you were talking about.
That's the reel to reel. And also, guys, so the whole movie, for those that haven't seen it, like you just saw in the beginning of the clip, the whole movie is black and white, as Leroy often talked about. And this is the only part that's color. And you can tell that Spike loves musicals. Because what black man was doing this, though, seriously, was introducing jazz and art and musicals? Nobody.
From far away and often gather there all day to show their love and see which one would stay. But to her it mattered not, for loyalty was not her lot. Her answer was not for them to know. She goes on her merry way, though she's only queen for a day. Boy and girl often take this world, so you'd better mind what you say. My advice to you, my friend, is try to find what it's about, and then you take into account your role. Do Now take some sugar in your mouth that may be sweet to you, but bitter in your stomach later on. What is good for you may not be good for me, so different stroke for different folk could be a real good rule. There she goes on her merry way, though she's only queen for a day. Boy and girl often take this world, so you better mind what you say.
Now, seriously, what black man was showing this type of thing on their first movie?
No, I'm talking even up until now. You still don't see that. You still don't see that.
Like the artsy, the musical, nobody.
Right.
It's either shoot 'em up, bang bang, stereotypes, or it's something.
But I think that was his NYU teaching that he incorporated into his movie.
Yeah.
That he was talking
And
about.
his loves, and his loves of jazz and musicals and theatrics.
Absolutely.
Now, who would think to just put this in the middle?
Right.
Like, you know what? I'm just going to change it to color, and
I just want to see this. Right. And I want to see. Hopefully, we can go through so it turns back to black and white. So that folks can see that.
Now it's time to bid adieu. It's been a pleasure knowing you. I'll see you when it's time to meet again.
I love that. Now watch this.
This is the sweetest buddy I ever had. Thank you. Where'd you get them from?
I know the dance. Make a wish.
We ain't doing that no more. And it goes back to black and white. So that's the only part of the entire movie. So if you're watching it for the first time and it's black and white and all of a sudden this color comes and it's not a musical, this movie is not a musical, and then this comes, you already like, wait, this is dope. This is something totally different.
Yeah.
So you're already like, okay, Spike, and you already see the layers. But this has been a good show, Leroy.
Yeah, and the thing about that movie is it's only 90 minutes. It's 90 an hour and a half.
It is.
So it's not a long movie. It is it's not a long movie at all.
To fast forward to Malcolm X, that was like 3 hours.
I know, right? I was just like, if you go to sleep, fall back up, okay,
right?
No, we still, when he was Malcolm Little, we ain't got to when he was Malcolm X yet.
Right. I never forget. I was in living in Vegas, and I was in college, and I was married at the time in early 20s. I think I was like 20 or 21 when that came out, and I remember us going to the movie theater, and I had to have school the next day, and I had a test, and I remember watching it like, it's still on, because we went to the late show. I was in there till like 1 in the morning, like, it's still on, you know.
Yeah,
I never
had to be
that.
one of his longest movies.
Yeah, but it was so good though. But so yes, so this is more than just a movie. And again, as I said in the beginning, we are dedicating the month of July to Spike Lee. We know what movie we're going to do next week, but we want to surprise you to come back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to watch us live, to see what 4 movies we chose for Spike Lee. Because of course, y'all already know he got more than 4.
In the comments, you can put what movie you think we're going to do next week. That's what we want to see y'all do. Put in the comments what movie that y'all think we're going to do next week. And somebody share this with Spike so he can see this whole month we're dedicating to him. So he can
and share it with Tanya Lewis Lee, the wife, you know, because like you always say, the wives have impact. So if she sees it, she might tell him about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be awesome. Because we know he loves to talk and everything like that. It would just be interesting to have his perspective on, you know, looking back now, him looking back at She's Gotta Have It, and what his mindset was in doing this movie that only cost that I'm saying only that cost him $175,000 to make. How you even do a movie on having said $175K? Could you
don't do no retakes? You don't do no retakes.
That's right. Could you even imagine having a movie done for $175,000 in this day and time?
At this day and time, no. This day and time, they could do it right from their iPhone.
Right. Yeah, and that's been done. But is it only going to cost you $175,000 though, with all of the editing and everything else that you have to do?
Yeah. And they and right, you're absolutely right. And it's just interesting that that he did it then,
right,
when nobody was doing that, and people probably thought that he couldn't do it, or was impossible to do. He showed that light went out a little bit. He showed that it could be done. And he did it.
Yeah, he did it.
And he showed.
Yeah, using his father as the what do you call it? The score. Doing his father did the score, which is, we didn't even get into that. That was absolutely. So
I want to just play
love the score of this movie and the way that his father fused the jazz into, and that all fed into what I was telling you about the black and white, it being black and white, and the artistry, the photography that it seemed to be. You know, the music kind of just accentuated that to me. And everything. It was like going to an art gallery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It really was. It was culture.
Right.
That's what that was. It was culture. And a lot of movies don't have culture.
Right. Even shooting it he shot that movie in Brooklyn. Wasn't it Brooklyn? He shot that in Brooklyn, didn't he?
Yeah.
Shot that movie in Brooklyn. And I love that brownstone that Nora lived in. That's me all day. I love that.
Yeah. I want to show an interview where Spike Lee was on a piece of that, where he was on Good Morning America, and he was talking about the reboot, and they were talking about She's Gotta Have It. So I'm gonna play just a little bit of it.
Give me call it. In the air, right? Yeah, live without a head. That just tells you lose. No, will you tell these two gentlemen it's time for them to go?
My fate decided by the flip of a coin.
How much longer must I tolerate?
That's a clip from She's Gotta Have It, the 1986 movie that marked the feature-length debut of director Spike Lee. Lee followed it up with a string of landmark movies, including Do the Right Thing, which earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Screenplay. 31 years later, his career has come full circle. On Thursday, Netflix premiered the television series She's Gotta Have It, which reimagines the original story and sets it in 2017. It is as timely as ever. We spoke with Lee this week at his offices in Brooklyn, New York.
I consider myself abnormal, but who wants to be like everybody else?
There's a girl that I want to.
She's Gotta Have It tells the story of a polyamorous Black female artist who is juggling 4 different lovers in the recently gentrified neighborhood of Fort Greene, Brooklyn.
Oh, the darling.
Career. Do you worry one day that the Brooklyn that is chronicled in your films won't exist anymore?
The Fort Greene and Bed-Stuy and She's Gonna Have the film is no more.
Today, the neighborhood where Lee grew up and set his story is much different, both on screen and off. You said that television afforded you more of a canvas.
Yes, a bigger canvas. And a lot more money to buy more paint. So we had more coloring.
Yeah.
We weren't doing it in, pun intended, black and white.
Yeah.
What about Nola Dog? What do you want to know?
It was less expensive to do black and white.
29 and just out of NYU Film School when he released She's Gotta Have It.
So in the summer 1985, we shot She's Gonna Have It in 12 days. July 1st, July 14th, 2 6-day weeks. my grandmother sent me Aretha Shelton, gave me the seed money.
Really?
So went on to make $7.5 million. And
did you tell your grandmother what the film was going to be about?
My grandma had complete faith in me. She said, Spikey, I know nothing about filmmaking, but that's what you want to do. I want to support you.
The movie explores themes of sexuality and empowerment through the character of a young artist named Nola Darling.
I consider myself normal, whatever that means.
I knew that Nola Darling would be a woman that people talk about.
Does it surprise you looking back at the film how risque it was?
Nobody knows this. We were having trouble with the rating system because it was just too much for other black girls, naked black people, black bodies on the screen. And so they would tell us there's too much sex. The day we opened, I got a call from the MPAA saying I had to make a cut. And the film was playing.
Lee called his editor, Barry Brown, and sent him to the theater to cut half of the scene while the film was still playing.
The projectionist looks at me and says, so what are you doing? So I know that there's a moment where they part and then they're going to come back together. So you got to cut there, you get to the end of the scene and cut again. And what was remarkable was it went right through.
That movie that set in motion the rest of the partnership.
She's Got to Have It?
Yeah.
Oh, She's Got to Have It did everything. It just doesn't seem like we would have careers without it.
You're a complicated puzzle, aren't you?
I like your curiosity.
I like yours too.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. This time around, Lee made sure to include female perspective in developing the 10-episode first season.
Career, you are the epitome.
You got women to do.
Don't you get tired of you?
Never happened.
He enlisted his wife, Tanya Lewis Lee, who he credits with bringing the story to TV, as well as 5 female writers, including the Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Lynn Nottage. They were criticized by some prominent feminists that Nola Darling in the film version this is the male gaze that directed this film.
People forget that this was my first film. People forget that She's Gonna Have It was 86 minutes long. We forget that we're revisiting this 30 years later. 30 years ago, I was not married. 30 years ago, I was not a father. So it's not a big thing to include Black women in this project. It's about Black women. It's what you need. This is my mother right here.
Lee credits his late mother, an elementary school teacher, with his love for cinema.
Godfather in a town called El Padrino.
Artifacts of which are on display throughout his offices.
This is an Italian poster of Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets, signed by Marty.
But the Oscar-winning director says despite his success, there is still a long way to go for people of color and women looking to make it in Hollywood.
She asked for it? You hear that? Pow! Harriet Tubman just shot herself with a pistol from the grave. Whoa!
This is only going to change when we get in the room with the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers that run stuff at CBS, at NBC, at Warner Brothers, at Netflix, at Showtime, whoever it is, Amazon. And they have meetings about what we're making. I mean, there's going to be a meeting about this show. All right, where's Spike going to go? There was a meeting made to get me on the show. These are the gatekeepers that make these decisions. And until we're in those rooms with the gatekeepers, there's not going to be no change.
Isn't freedom also having the right to do whatever you will with your own body? Bet you Michelle Obama isn't about to start carving herself up anytime soon. Nope.
Lee got a second chance to reimagine Nola Darling at precisely the moment when gender and sexuality are making national headlines. We're having this huge reckoning when it comes to women, women being in the room, women having power, women making decisions, women as victims. When you think about what's going on in the national conversation and you think about this show that's about to premiere, what's the lesson?
I'm going to give you an honest answer, okay? I don't tell audiences what the lesson is. I respect my audience. I never say, well, you come out of the theater, here's the thing, the takeaways. I don't do takeaways.
I leave it up to the audience. I respect their intelligence.
Yeah.
What do you think about the conversation we're having? Given the fact that you've
It's long overdue.
That's good.
He is a master of cinema.
Yeah.
It's
That's good. And like he said, he respects his audience. And he also said, I just want to touch on this so we can conclude. He also said he wasn't, and that's what people got to understand. You make movies or make art or do things where you are at that time. He wasn't a husband. He wasn't a father. So if it was a lot of sex, or if that was in his male mind, or what he thought, or what kind of woman that was what he did then. But 30 years later, he's been married for 28 years. You know, at that point, it was 26 years or 25 years, something like that. So, of course, he has a daughter he's going to change. He has a wife. Well, so he said, so let me give this woman's voice a voice of women. So he implored women to speak up and to talk about that.
But that then to me, and I know I won't go in because we could talk more about this, but then that would change the story of Nola. It would Nola was who she was.
Right.
He created this character who had certain personality traits.
Yeah.
You know, and she was of a certain age, she was a certain mindset, she was a certain way.
Yeah.
So the Nola of 1986, let's take her, some 30-something years older, that's not the same Nola, but I guarantee you, if you were to talk to the Nola of 1986 and the Nola of 2021, that would bring you to, like you were saying, the growth and maturity of who Nola was, and who she became. Yeah. So I don't think that him back. I mean, he wasn't going to have a woman's perspective back then because it was him. He was writing. He was writing from.
But I'm glad that his intelligence and the people around him, and like I told you, his wife was spearheading it to say, okay, now we're in this generation where men ain't speaking for women no more. Even though back then some of them weren't, but people thought that men spoke for women, like women weren't valued in certain ways. So now it's like, okay, let me get these 5 women to write 5 episodes or 10 episodes to do that. And I love the fact that he was smart enough, whether he listened to himself or listened to his wife, however it happened, he was smart enough to say, you know what, I can't write. I can imagine from a woman's perspective, but let me get a woman to go with this to see her growth as a person. And like I said, watching it, I suggest everybody rewatch the movie and the series because the series even goes deeper because you got more time to really. It's good.
That's the difference between, because the movie is only, like you said,
86 minutes.
With the series, you can actually delve into different stories and different aspects of who Nola is. Which that's where, like you said, that's to me, that's where that woman perspective comes in, because you can draw out different stories of who Nola is. And I was thinking about something too, because you know how we were saying that that Tracy Camilla, that Kelly Rowland looked like her. And I'm wondering if for the series they had thought about bringing Kelly in and being Nola, because I'm thinking Kelly could have pulled that off.
But Kelly, she could have pulled that off. She could have. But I will say DeWanda did a great job. And shout out to Jessup, Maryland. She did a great job. She really did. She gave the essence of, like the kids say, she gave what she was supposed to give in that. And she was good. You know, she was definitely good in that. And she played that role. Basine, our favorite viewer, says, you know, we got to do Mo Better Blues for her birthday, which is the 28th. So, you know, I'll give everyone a hint. That will be one of the movies, but we're not going to tell you when. I'll just give that hint. Since you watched so much, I'm going to give you
and we thank you for watching. That's awesome.
Right, but I can't tell you when, but we got number 1, 2, and 3, and this is number 1. Everybody, you know, we thank you for watching More Than Just a Movie and coming back every week for Leroy and I to do this. You know, technical difficulties for the first time. This is episode 18, I think. First time.
Yeah.
So we still gave you the same amount of time, a little more, to watch this. So let us know in the comments what you think. If this is one of your favorite movies, what other Spike Lee movies you want us to do, to see if you can guess the 4 that we choose. You already got one. Okay, let me give you a hint. You already got this one, so you already know one. There's 3 more. We're not going to do School Days because we already did that
one.
right. So now you all can guess to see. And then we gave you a hint about Mo Better Blues. So really you just got to think of 2 more.
Right. You got a lot to pick from, but
that's the hard part.
But
yes, don't definitely subscribe to this show. And thank you for continuously coming back and share this with your friends if they want to hear about their favorite movie or the perspective that Leroy and I have. You won't find another review show that's like this, because we go into real life, we go into it a little differently. But thank you, everybody. Leroy, thank you.
Absolutely, this was good. This was good, and thank you, because we did this one, and this made me go back and watch this movie all over again, and to be able to appreciate the work that Spike has done. It was phenomenal watching it again. I'm gonna watch the series too.
Yes, definitely. Let me know what you think. But we're always on point, because every time we do a show or decide to do a show, it comes on TV, it comes on something. So that tells me we're in alignment with what we're supposed to be doing. But everybody, don't forget to subscribe. And what else, Leroy?
Oh, no, you want to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Like, subscribe, share, and comment, y'all. We want y'all to tell other people about it so that they can actually get the review that we are about this week. I saw this yesterday. Was this yesterday? But it happened to, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? I pulled that up because this is what came on my.
Oh, wow. All of the different shows. I wonder if those movies are going to be in our.
I know, right?
Leroy and I know. I wonder. You'll have to stick around and watch.
Exactly.
But this is Spike Lee month, and we're kicking it off as we did with She's Gotta Have It. Thank you, everybody, for watching More Than Just a Movie, where we break down classic Black films. I'm Kendell Lenice. That's Leroy Mckenzie Jr. Peace, y'all. God bless.